Good, because we're going to finish it without permits, and it might be a safety issue.
You look amazingly well.
So now we're going to count that, at least this verbiage.
All right, everyone.
In space whether you finish
Going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order and ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was nice.
All right. Sally, if you could help me with roll call, please.
Certainly. Mayor Kent Atwell.
Present.
Alderperson Tim Eicher.
Here.
Dave Greenway.
Here.
Dan Jaschinski.
Here.
Ed Merrick.
Here.
Jim Ryer.
Here.
Laura Schultz. Here. Robert Weiler.
Here.
And we also have Roger Dupler, planner, and Scott Hessinger, building inspector, with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the first item on the agenda tonight is public hearing number 1, conditional use permit DELC 0793.021 and 0793.021.001 705 Genesee Street, Delafield, Hendricks Commercial Properties LLC. Consideration of a conditional use permit and site plan to allow for multifamily dwelling units in CBD1 Central Business District. In addition, consider special exceptions for the number of floors, building height, and building setback. So I just have a brief statement before we get started. We're going to take all citizens and non-citizens comments for the public hearing. Given the number of people in this room and our hard stop at 11 p.m., I'm asking everyone to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. To respect everyone in the room's need to speak, please give us your name and address, and if you live in the city of Delafield. Please try not to repeat what others have said. Simply tell us you agree with them for the sake of time. I'm hoping we can get through everyone in an hour and a half. Last time we had a room this full, it took us almost 2.5 hours. I'm trying to see if we can get it done in an hour and a half. And then just one statement for everybody's consideration. I strongly encourage you to focus your comments on the issues we'll be taking action on tonight. Building envelope size/height, location setbacks on the lot, as well as the total number of floors for each of the 2 buildings. This is what is pertinent tonight. Also, any of the approvals and recommendations for exceptions must also come with a code amendment based on the changes made by the legislature's land use enacted in 2017 with Act 67. These code changes would be publicly noticed as part of the City Council agenda process. So the rules are not the same today as they were prior to these changes. That's important to understand when we want to compare this application and what has been done previously in the city of Delafield under conditional use.
There will be 4 of us.
4 of you? So we're going to give you 12 minutes.
My name is Chloe Weinschneider, and I live at 834 Mill Street in the city of Delafield. I am making this presentation on behalf of A Better Delafield. The group was started in 2013 because a number of residents were concerned about the urban tree canopy. We have raised our voices about other issues in intervening years. We are not concerned about development per se. We are concerned about the proposed Hendricks buildings. Our downtown slopes down from I-94 to the lake. Much of this area was wetlands. In other words, downtown Delafield was built on a wetland. In spite of filling in the wetland, much of the area retains the characteristics of wetlands. As the black arrows indicate, when the apartments on Wells Street were built, the fish hatchery flooded. Why? Because it sits below the apartments. Based on this evidence, the red arrows indicate that the Hendricks buildings will logically cause the fish hatchery and Milwaukee Street traders to flood. Why? Because they sit below the proposed development. Those who live in the downtown area are familiar with flooding. The flooding intensifies in winter. When the ground is frozen, the water can't drain into the soil and instead drains downhill into basements, causing more flooding. This diagram shows the relationship between the water table and two kinds of aquifers. In an unconfined aquifer, reduced percolation is caused by urban hardscape, driveways, sidewalks, roads, parking lots, buildings, concrete. Reduced percolation due to hardscape reduces the level of the water table. A confined aquifer has a relatively impermeable ceiling above it, which greatly slows the water from continuing downward. Thus, it may take centuries or even millennia to restock. Our water table is now dropping, and as a consequence, our wells are having to be drilled deeper because the water supply is reduced in both kinds of aquifers. Even though we live on a lake, we don't have an infinite supply of water, and thus must protect our water supply. If we make a mistake, we will have to bring water from Highway 83 at a cost of $5 to $10 million, much of which we taxpayers will have to pay. Let's take a look at some of the Hendricks buildings. This is a Hendricks Ironworks Hotel in Beloit. It's a handsome building, beautifully lit. Notice the signature Hendricks design: brick, blocky style, use of steel. Homage to the Beloit heritage in the ironworks running down the end of the building. And here is where the Hendricks Ironworks Hotel is located in Beloit. Note the large buildings surrounding it and the primarily industrial character of the area. Note also the number of streets, some multi-lane. This is no doubt an excellent choice for a hotel to serve the surrounding industrial area. And here is the building in its location in downtown Indianapolis. Note the predominance of tall, blocky buildings. The signature Hendricks design fits right in because it is tall, blocky, industrial, and the brick harmonizes with other brick buildings in the neighborhood. Note, this is downtown in Indianapolis with much traffic, multi-lane streets. This is downtown in the city with 873,000 inhabitants. And here is where the Hendricks Ironworks building is located in Indianapolis. This is no doubt an excellent location for this type of building in a city of 783,000. It can be easily accessed thanks to the wide multi-lane streets. It is located on a corner and close to a freeway. There are large open areas, and there's plenty of space for large parking lots. These are the two buildings Hendricks have proposed for the vacant lot on Genesee Street. In the latest proposal, the lighter colored building on the right has a modified design. The building on the left is unchanged. To quote from the Hendricks website, the 1-acre site will consist of two 4-story buildings containing retail, residential, office, and a food hall. Note that the buildings continue the Hendricks signature design: blocky, brick, industrial. Compare the style of the Hendricks buildings with the building behind it at the far left. Again, to quote from the Hendricks website, the architectural style of the new development pays homage to the Midwestern ideal by incorporating elements from the commercial Chicago style of architecture of the 1920s and 30s. To quote again, it is similar in style to an adaptive reuse of an old turn-of-the-century warehouse. Let us now look at the proposed Hendricks building in the context of Delafield. Let us start with the number of condos requested. There are 3 reasons why they should not be allowed. First, there are multiple condos and apartments already available in the central city at Wells Street Station, Delafield Woods, Delafield Lakes, and Hillside Woods, in addition to senior apartments and low-income apartments, as well as the condos at 605 Genesee Street. According to the 2019 U.S. Census data, 122 of these are vacant. How many units can one small city of about 7,000 actually support? Second, condos generally use a fairly large amounts of water. The aquifer under Delafield is dropping, and as shown by the need to drill wells deeper. Furthermore, our city water is mixed with Heartland's water to reduce the radioactive component to an acceptable level. These condos will further stress our water supply. Keep in mind that the proposed restaurants also use large amounts of water. Lastly, if Hendricks is given permission to add condos, what do we say to the next developer? If we allow one developer to add still more condos, we have no grounds to deny the next developer the same treatment. From the Delafield Building Code, for the principal building, the maximum height is measured from the lowest grade along the perimeter of the structure. The lowest point is on the north at about 8 feet down. The maximum height in the central business district is 45 feet. But the Genesee building was measured from the highest point at 57.5 feet. Measured from the lowest point as specified by the building code, the building is about 8 feet taller. In other words, 57.5 plus about 8 feet or about 65.5 feet. This is 20.5 feet over the 45-foot maximum allowed. In addition, both buildings have 4 stories, not the 3 allowed by code. Furthermore, accessory buildings, such as the second building on Dobkins, has a maximum height of 25 feet. This further limits the height of this building.
Ladies, you're at 9 minutes, just so you know.
The height of the Genesee building would be in code if the setback were at least 10 feet under the building and reduced to 3 stories.
The Hendricks buildings we described earlier were built in Beloit and Indianapolis, both much larger cities than Delafield. But size does matter. Compare the relative sizes of the 4 cities on the screen. Even Oconomowoc, with another Hendricks building, is more than twice our size. Delafield has a miniature downtown in comparison with these larger cities, just 5 blocks long. We have 2-lane streets, not multi-lane pavements. We have had no industrial development or large commercial buildings of any kind. In fact, we started out as cabins used in summer to escape the heat in Milwaukee. To quote from the building code regarding the Delafield Historic Central Business District, evaluation of appearance of a project shall be based on the quality of its design and relationship to surroundings. However, architects and builders are encouraged to consider the architectural styles and traditions appropriate to the area of the city. Did this development do this? Unfortunately not. Again from the building code, buildings shall be compatible with neighboring properties with respect to size, scale, proportion, and materials. Does this development fill the bill? Unfortunately not. Once again from the code, all non-residential uses that are new structures shall be required to demonstrate compatibility with surrounding architecture and exhibit traditional influence indicative of our architectural styles and detailing found in the Delafield region at the time of the city incorporation. Predominant architectural styles in the downtown development are colonial, neoclassical, federal, Victorian, and Greek Revival. Does this development honor the code? Unfortunately not.
30 seconds left.
On behalf of a better Delafield, We will be pleased when that vacant lot is developed. We will be delighted with a building that fits into the historic Delafield downtown aesthetic. We will be deeply appreciative when that development honors our building codes. In conclusion, and to summarize, the right kind of development is great, but this development needs work to become the right development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for abiding by the time. Thank you very much. And then we have the other group that'll be next. Sally, they'll be next because they have a presentation. Thank you. Mike, you're going to want to switch to Roger's computer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Oh, thank you.
Roger, I'll just point at you. Nice job. Oh.
I'll remind Mike to switch.
You want him to stay
I
at the
did.
table?
Mike, remember to switch to Roger's computer.
Pull it. Pull it then. We're also connected at the table, if you want to do that.
There we go. All right, you guys are ready?
So pull that. It's probably messing that up. Is that yours? Oh, gotcha.
You give your names and addresses.
Hi, my name is John Riveris. I live at 174 North Fieldstone Road in Delafield. Good evening, everyone. We want to spend a little time with you talking about this project as well. We represent a group known as Delafield Citizens for Responsible Growth. And we were here 2 months ago, talked a lot about our group. We won't bore you with those details again, but wanted just to kind of share a little bit about what we do and what we've been doing and kind of the outcome of that. We'll take you through the presentation. First and foremost, the goal of our group is to collaborate with the city, work closely with citizens, government, the businesses to ensure that we have a platform for sustainability of our community. And that's the holistic sustainability of our community, whether it be schools, whether it be businesses, whether it be retail or our housing as well. So there are a couple of things that we have learned over the 8 months that we've been together. And the prominent thing that we have learned is that our city is in significant trouble. And the trouble comes in a number of ways, but the four that we focus on that kind of show very clearly the problems that we are here on the screen. First and foremost, many people don't know that our city is facing a budget deficit not very far in the future, albeit next year. If you think about the economy, how well the economy is doing, how many people are working, tax revenue increases, for our city in 2020 to be in a budget crisis should be a concern of everybody here in this room. Secondly, in a decade of economic development nationwide and in Wisconsin, Wisconsin has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state. Somehow we drive down our main street and we see empty, vacant restaurants, empty, vacant storefronts, and for some reason we can't continue or keep businesses in our city. That should be concerning for us in a time of economic boom like we're seeing. The question obviously is what happens to our downtown in the next recession, when that next recession hit, and it will. Thirdly, our school enrollment is down almost 10% in 10 years. That school enrollment is a significant problem for our city. If you Google Kettle Moraine schools and see what comes up, the first thing that comes up for a prospective home buyer looking at what town they should live in is that we're looking for a referendum to raise money. Would you buy a house in a community, in a school district that needs money, in one of the best economic booms of our time? Or would you go to a neighboring town or school district that in fact is fully funded. Last but not least, our property appreciation, and the graph that you see on the screen is basically stagnant over the last decade. We are last in Lake Country in growth, and we all are feeling it. People wonder why we vote down referendums. People wonder why we vote down dredging of our lake. It's not because we don't have the money as citizens. It's not because we don't care about our lake or we don't care about our schools. It's because we as citizens don't feel very good about the energy that we have in our town. We don't feel good about our property values, by which most people judge their wealth. And for that reason, we are stagnant. We're stagnant in spending, and we're stagnant in our looking at going forward. It's our responsibility, everybody in this room, you looking at us and us looking at you, to take this responsibility seriously. And the way to change our future is through economic development. Josh?
You're at 4 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Josh Feith. I live at 150 North Fieldstone Road here in the city of Delafield. As John mentioned, I am also one of the members of the coalition. We covered this last time. I'm going to briefly touch on it. We as a city have a comprehensive plan. Within that plan is an economic development chapter, a section specifically with goals and objectives in line with supporting and driving economic development. I'm going to read some of these bullet points real quickly here to keep us on track. But number 1, promote business retention, expansion, and new startups. Attract higher technology, quote unquote, white collar and higher value added industries. You're going to hear from someone tonight, Kurt from Montage. I highly, if you do anything tonight and you do it with the best of intentions, listen to Kurt, the opportunities in front of him and his business in the foundation of the economic ecosystem here in Delafield. Please listen to him. We should also be encouraging and supporting businesses that will increase the tax revenue. We should be recruiting and marketing to businesses, encouraging growth that strives to be self-sufficient. Encouraging reinvestment in the development of our inner business sector, which is exactly what this proposal talks about this evening, and promote and maintain a unique identity for the downtown area. That's where the Planning Commission, and I think for those of you who were here last time, we took a bio break. Not very many people stuck around and listened to Hendricks and how they addressed watershed, the design of the building, the reasons for the height, the setbacks, all of those things. So I encourage you to learn more about the proposal and the current plan for 705 Genesee Street. We talked about there is a problem. We have a plan. The city put forth one almost 20 years ago. We should be looking at that. We should be reviewing it, and we should put it into action. We actually have a partner. Some people in this room may appreciate that partner, some may not. But we currently have a partner that has over 20 buildings in this city at a value of over $20 million. They recently have put a lot of paint and aesthetically pleasing enhancements to those at the tune of almost $2 million, which once again keeps up our property values. They are looking to double their investment in the city with this proposed proposal. They currently pay over $500,000 in taxes. This proposal brings not quite double that, but once again, they are committed to our city, and I think we need to work with them. They want a partner. They're bringing some of the businesses. You heard from Eye Candy last time. They brought them from down by Milwaukee Street Traders up to the storefront here on Main Street. They're a good partner. We should be working with them and not challenging every step that they bring forward. If we lose them, we're in a world of hurt. So please consider this from all angles.
You 4 guys are at 7 minutes.
Dave?
So my name's David Simon. I live at 180 North Fieldstone Road in Delafield. I moved to Delafield about 19 years ago, and I moved here for some of the things that this project is bringing, enhancing and developing further for the city. I, for one, am glad Delafield isn't a bunch of cottages with, no air conditioning that people are trying to get away from the heat in Milwaukee. Delafield has become, might have been something like that 30, 40 years ago. It's become something different. And part of what attracted our family, and I think a lot of the people in this room to Delafield, are things like restaurants and shops and bars and a vibrant downtown that brings people to the downtown to recreate and enjoy nature and be part of the city. And I just wanted to touch on some of the benefits that this project brings that I think enhance those benefits. Parking. I mean, this project is bringing 87 underground parking spots, 34 outdoor parking spots to downtown. That's a real benefit to this community that we shouldn't discount. The public market food hall that Hendricks is contemplating on the first floor of this building is really something special and could really be an amazing attribute for this city. And I think for our family, that would be super attractive. I think for many of the people in the city, they would find that very, very, a very powerful addition to the city. I think, you know, Josh talked about this a little bit, but the idea of bringing more office jobs into Delafield is something that I think you should take into account as you're considering this proposal. This project will bring people to downtown during the day who will get their dry cleaning done at Liebling, who will have lunch at Mazatlan, who will shop at, you know, the boutique stores around downtown. That's a critically important part of downtown. It's, as Josh said, part of the city master plan, and in my view, something we've neglected as a city for far too long. It's a real benefit that we should take into account as assessing this. And of course, you know, Josh referenced this. This project will bring, I think the estimate is $384,687 in annual revenue to this city. That is a difference maker, and it's something that this Plan Commission should take into account as it's assessing this proposal.
2 minutes left.
Good evening. My name is Rob Miller at 738 West Shore Drive. I've been a citizen here for 20 years. I currently have a business downtown at Rob Miller Homes at 706 Oneida Street. I just want to share with you some of the potential here that this project brings to this city. A little bit of background here. I've been 20 years in the city, and I've been very blessed and very fortunate to enjoy the amenities that we've all had the past 20 years. My feeling about this community is that the leadership is lacking, and I feel that we need strong leadership here and to keep this community growing in the right direction. I don't believe personally that this city wants to grow and wants to grow in the right way. I think we have a lot of residents that have been here a long time, and they just are refusing to grow. Unfortunately, the city is going to grow. And so working with the Hendricks Group and their proposal and what they've done over the last 2 years, I believe personally, as a business owner downtown and a resident of 20 years, that this is a potential project that will have short-term and long-term prosperity for Delafield. The common thread we all agree on is a desire to preserve and enhance the uniqueness of what we have in Delafield. We strongly believe that there's a strategic imperative to this project that will be best serve Delafield for generations to come. This will bring sustainable economic energy and vibrancy to downtown Delafield. It will let the community know that we are investing in our future so our children and our children's children can enjoy what we love so much about our wonderful city of Delafield. And ending here, I just ask that you guys really consider thinking outside the box here. I believe that it's important that we do follow laws here, but when we have an opportunity like this where a company that's willing to invest $25 million additional dollars to our community, which could potentially help our revenue here so that we don't hit deficits that we can't take care of. I just think that, you know, based on my experience in other communities, that there's always a way. And I think the way is us working together, clearly understanding what it is that you want from us or from the Hendricks Group, that being the height. I just personally can't see this building lot to lot, 3 stories high, with no parking and no open space. Going vertical, allowing us to have the open space and the additional parking on the surface, I think is really important for this community.
Great, thank you. I'm going to
Thank
ask
you.
you to end there, please. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, Susie, would you like to be next? You were anxious.
I am. This one or this one?
They both work.
Okay. Hi, I'm Susie Thompson, 700 Milwaukee Street, City of Delafield, 2.5 blocks from here at the City Hall, less than 2 blocks from the Hendricks Growth. I think it's important to note people who walk a lot, as my husband and I do, are very much for this growth. A couple things that were brought up earlier that I wanted to make note of. Cedarburg and the 3rd Ward have had extreme growth. If any of you have been downtown to the 3rd Ward, you will all remember the protests that were heard on the south side of I-94 eastbound when a big box went up. But it followed within the guidelines, and they totally changed a building that could have been more historic looking. We have a choice right now of making changes. I agree that there are some changes that we would have to make or make allowances. But if you will all remember, in history, there was a time women were not allowed to vote and blacks were not allowed in a building, and there were changes that were made in history. So let's kind of grow here, everyone. I'm tired of hearing people say this does not meet current guidelines. Maybe our guidelines have more of a problem than the growth that's being asked for. I used to live in Elm Grove with my husband. We saw downtown Elm Grove die, and we saw taxes go up. Everyone is aware the commercial properties pay more in taxes than residential. We cannot afford to lose or hold back growth on commercial. I'm a realtor for 28 years. I see the growth and the potential for our area to become better. When we talk about trees being old and trees coming down, and by the way, I took down 3 very ancient walnuts on our property that were street trees. I asked the city to take them down. They had dead heads. When the head is dead, the tree is dead. We planted 9 trees and 27 bushes. So we need to be the era of growth and new things. Taking down something old, as in a tree, doesn't have a negative impact unless you forget to replant. Take down 1, plant 2. That is also beneficial. Water in wells versus city water versus problem with having municipal water, I do not see as a problem. City of Brookfield has 3 really deep wells. It's served by wells even though it's city water.
20 seconds, Susie.
Bottom line is we should be encouraging Hendricks. We need to open up to change. And I think that the citizens responding is encouraging the Planning Commission to consider those proposals.
Thank you very much. Who would like to be next? Jim?
Did you see if my extension is firmly plugged in? The jack on the right side.
Seems to be.
Okay.
Is it better?
Good evening. Jim Zahorik, 1948 West Shore Drive, a resident of the city of Delafield for 30 years. I agree that Hendricks has done many things for the city of Delafield. And I see that they propose to change the city of Delafield. I came here because of what it is, not for what it could be. The improvements to the buildings that they own are necessary maintenance, painting, so that it all looks good in our downtown area. You don't want the buildings to go into disrepair. But what they're proposing, and I know that the people speaking before me state, well, we always go back to what our code allows. And there's a reason for the code. We all know about it. But what stands out for me is the excess of building and the proximity to the main road through downtown Delafield. It's proposed as a setback of 24 feet for a building that exceeds height, and they compare it to the building to the south of the proposed at 705. This afternoon, my wife and I measured the setback of the Lang building that exists south of that building of 705. And the setback is 64 feet. That's a 4-story building, but it's set back from the street 64 feet. The postcards that were put on mailboxes illegally around the city, placed behind the flag that we all received, I would have thought they'd be more responsible than to do that, depicts a picture showing the building in light with a shadow from the east. I'm not aware of any existing building, i.e. Daybreak, that would have a height that high to cast a shadow across the street. But rest assured, a 4-story building on the west side of the street will certainly cast a shadow. They spoke about, as far as economic development, and how Kettle Moraine had out a referendum and how that's going to affect people that want to move here. Well, the referendum is because of the current funding formula that has not changed for over 20 years.
Need you to wrap it up, Jim.
And what will occur, and you can check on this, check with the Kettle Moraine School Board to see what impact this Hendricks building would have. In conclusion, it's a building that will help. It's just in the wrong location. We're trying to put too much on too small of a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to be next? Please raise your hand. The gentleman in the far back, please come up.
Thanks. You're real brief. I'm not even going to sit down because I'm going to be so brief. My name is Dan Collins, 726 Milwaukee Street. I'm a 25-year resident of Delafield. I got a fistful of signatures of my neighbors in the downtown area who I went around and talked to about this proposal, and they view this as more of like a public market or a community gathering space. That's how the neighbors in our downtown area see this development. And I was struck by the fact that most of the people who I talked to who signed these were, I don't want to say shocked, but they were surprised to know that this proposal hadn't been approved yet. They were like, really? I mean, we've seen the pictures, we know what's being proposed, and you're telling me that it's stalled at City Hall, that it's not a done deal? I was kind of embarrassed to tell them, yeah, you guys could probably tell them the reasons why it's not done yet, but my goodness, let's just get this done. I mean, I personally am in favor of it, and I think that our city leaders should be looking for reasons or ways to get things done instead of looking for excuses to not do things, to not get this done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Could you please give me your street address again?
726 Milwaukee Street, a block and a half.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Please come up. Yep.
Hi, thank you. My name is Jackie Lydon, and I'm at 1614 West Shore Drive. I'm a Delafield native, went to Cushing Elementary, and have lived here. This has been my home base all my life. I have to say that one of the things that I find concerning about this development would definitely have to do with the aquifer. I don't think anyone, I'm a member of a Better Delafield, and we have consistently said that good ecology is good business. And what you find that when a city has too much growth and bad planning, and I really fault the idea that our leaders are against good planning. I think, if anything, I would applaud that. In this respect, Delafield is wisely trying to consider all aspects here. is that we have to think about that aquifer. What would 87 underground parking spaces do to the Bark River, do to Lake Negawicka? We all know that Waukesha has had massive problems and had to tap into Lake Michigan when it was supposed to be the city of springs only 100 years ago. You go around the country, you cannot buy another aquifer. Not even Diane Hendricks can do that. Everyone wants attractive downtown gathering places, and I think that Delafield and what I've seen in the last 10 and 15 years only supports that. We have this beautiful new Liberty Park. We have the new stage at Liberty Park. It is difficult to run a small business here or anywhere. Small businesses are inherently difficult. But if we have this kind of growth that doesn't really, harmonize with our existing codes and architecture and water table, then I would say that you have to think about what its impact will be on additional police, fire, all the support systems that regular citizens are going to have to pay for, who won't be getting in their cars at night and going to wherever they're going to be, going to. I mean, we're the homeowners here. And there's not a thing that has ever been proposed that I have ever seen that has actually lowered our taxes across the board. So, this means higher taxes too. I mean, I think we have to be honest about that. I think, again, the most important thing for me is to think about height restrictions. I don't want to ride my bike over, and I don't think most people do. I don't want to have an aerial view of Delafield where there's two big blocks and then everything else is dwarfed by it. That just isn't harmonizing with the history of the city, and I think it also squanders potential for the future, because our future depends on what we do now, which means it depends on our water. It depends on our environment, not because we're simply blind. It's because we want to preserve that future. We want our children and our children's children to enjoy that lake, to enjoy these trees, to enjoy
20
this
seconds.
green space. So those would be my concerns. I can understand wanting to park underground. We all do sometimes, but we have to make sure it's ecologically sustainable. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Who'd like to be next? Come on up.
Linda Holton, 485 Lillian Court, City of Delafield. Excuse me, I'm a better writer than I am a speaker, so hopefully I make myself clear, okay? First, I'd like to start with saying how proud I am of Delafield. As a involved, informed citizen, I'm grateful for the officials that basically volunteer their time to make our city work and to help it move forward, and I think they do an excellent job. I do not see Delafield as a failing, backward little city without foresight. To the contrary, Delafield is a highly desirable address attributed to its location foremost, but also its long history and continued effort at reasonable, controlled, smart growth. Delafield is in the top 5 communities in the metro Milwaukee area in regards to average home prices, location, and appeal. It is far from declining. The Milwaukee Journal will give you some stats on that. I'd also like to defend our comprehensive plan and our zoning code. It is not antiquated. I can tell you that the entire comprehensive plan and zoning code was reviewed and adopted in 2009. It was a 2-year process, a lot of work. Every paragraph, word, and chapter was analyzed, and it cost the citizens of Delafield $75,000. Its foresight and its conclusions incorporated growth and development data from the federal census, the state and county demographics, and citizen input to set forth a vision and projected that vision to 2030. It is still a very viable and current document. Now, I sent you an email or 2 emails with pages attached that my sources were the zoning code, the comprehensive plan, and 2 handbooks put out by the University of Wisconsin. The handbook, the Plan Commission handbook, and the Zoning Appeals and Variance handbook. It cites case law in the state of Wisconsin, and I hope you have the time to give consideration to the highlighted pages I sent you. And both handbooks, now I draw this conclusion, and I might have missed something, and I stand corrected if you say otherwise.
30 seconds.
Okay. That I have left?
Yep.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. All right. There are clear statements as to why and how this approval would be a mistake. The zoning code gives you the authority to say yes to the conditional use for multiple family because it is granted in the ordinance. You do not have the authority to grant the special exemptions. Chapter 14 of the handbook, a conditional use, also known as a special exemption in Wisconsin case law, in any exception is any exception expressly listed in the zoning ordinance, including land uses and dimensional changes.
Need you to wrap it up.
Okay. A conditional use must be listed as such in the zoning ordinance along with the standards and conditions that must be met. There is also a Supreme Court ruling, which I will end with, that states it is not always easy. First, I'll say I believe this does not belong in front of you and it's a variance and it belongs in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the state Supreme Court said it may not always be easy to determine if an applicant is seeking an area variance or a use variance. It is arguably that a large deviation from a dimensional standard or multiple deviations from several dimensional standards on the same lot may constitute a use variance instead of an area variance. Allowing this could have the same effect as changing the zoning.
All right, thank you, Len.
I just believe that this is a violation. It's a way to bust the zoning without the effort and the honesty.
I appreciate it.
And I ask you
Okay,
to
who would like to be next? Thank you for the comments. Come up.
consider that. Thank you.
I apologize in advance, I did not prepare anything before this, but I just wanted to make this very quick. I'm a
What is your
resident.
name and address?
Oh, sorry, Christine Harder. I live at 2243B Circle Ridge in Delafield, the Cattle Ridge condominiums.
Okay, one more time. with
Sorry,
the street address.
2243B Circle Ridge in Delafield, but I actually am.
Speak into the microphone.
Sorry, 2243B Circle Ridge here in Delafield. I'm actually in the process. I just bought a house, so we're actually moving to another area, 120 Hickory Court here in Delafield. I'll make this very quick. I've been here for 11 years. My husband has lived in Delafield for close to 25 years. We've been looking for a house here. We've lived in a condo. We've been looking for a house for close to 4 or 5 years here to find the right house. The reason we picked Delafield is specifically for the quaintness of downtown, the small buildings, the walkability. Right now, my husband is at the fish hatchery with my son, riding bikes along the path, going to probably Cushing Park. It's quaint, has open space. When we bought our house, at the codes and ordinances, in Delafield's ordinances, even for fencing, says having open space, and it's an open concept, so you know your neighbors, so you see the sky, and having this huge building. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to have to have more businesses, and I'm not saying it has to be a one-story building, but if you look at all the other buildings that are on that main drive, they are small buildings, one story. This does not fit in with the current structure. This doesn't fit in with the theme of Delafield, of knowing your neighbor, open space, seeing trees and sky and the fish hatchery and everything. It just doesn't fit in. And just my concern, just from other people's comments, comparing it to Third Ward, is, although she meant it in a positive way, I see that as a negative. That's downtown. That's a bustling city. I have also lived in Milwaukee before, and that's not a comparison I want. People spend, for houses here, you're spending about $100,000 more for houses, if anyone's been in the housing market recently, for Delafield compared to anywhere else. And we pay that because we like the downtown area. If you take that away, the house prices are going to decrease. I can tell you that because other areas, even Brookfield, when you're looking for houses, are less. And I came from an area that was a smaller town. We had only a fleet farm when I grew up there. And you know what? They let small things like this go. And now it's the equivalent of Highway 100 where my parents live. And they live about 1.5 miles from this very busy street, and now they're trying to make the street as big as possible, as fast as possible. So now you have all this construction, they have increased crime, they also have just the amount of traffic there, and they can't sustain it because it's not Highway 100. It doesn't have 3-4 lanes wide. It has 2 lanes at most, taking down trees. And just very quickly to comment on some of the positives for this, just maybe I'm not understanding why. They said enrollment is down at Cushing Elementary. I find it hard to believe. I live in a condo right now. There are no school-age kids, maybe 1 or 2 in a 60 different condos. I find it hard to believe this is going to bring children that are going to be available for enrollment. If you're talking tax purposes, that would be another
30 seconds.
thing. Property value has not decreased. There was a recession. I can tell you because my condo is back up and worth actually more than I bought it for 11 years ago. Precedent, which also was brought up before in a positive way that, yeah, what we do here today is going to set precedent. I'm a lawyer, and when you set any sort of precedent or case law, it's going to be around for decades and years. And you know what? People are going to use this to then create a 6th-floor structure, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. So I hope that you do take into concern the people that are concerned with this. They don't want no business. They just want smaller business that fits in with the town.
Thank you for your comments. All right, who would like to be next? No clapping, folks, please. No clapping. Who would like to be next? Please raise your hand. Over there, come on up. Gentleman in the yellow shirt.
She was first caught. Did you hear her last name in here? It was Christine something. Show it. Oh, Bernie.
I'm Bernie Biba. I've been here for, 1974, okay? And I've watched things get improved all the time. Okay, we started with the sewer. And you know what? We had people that were against the sewer. You understand that? It took a lot to get the sewer. I had drainage coming up into my basement. And this is an improvement. We put the sewer in, okay? Okay, this proposed project is something going forth.
Bernie, use the microphone, please. Get it closer.
It's something going forth, okay? Everybody was against the sidewalk going down the road. Guess who was using the sidewalk? The people that didn't want it. I watched the people walking their dogs. They didn't want it. You cannot stop improving the city, because if you do, we're all going to go down. We have to find a way. Okay, if it isn't this project, let's redevelop this thing and get it going and make it better. It doesn't have to be 4 stories if we don't want it then. Get it 3 stories in, 4 stories back. How about that? Wouldn't that be something different? We need to do something.